Hi there, it's Jane Birkinshaw from Love Your Lens here. I want to talk to you a little bit today about a feature called exposure compensation on your cameras. It's a great feature that gives you really great control over the exposure on your camera, and it's particularly brilliant for people who perhaps haven't mastered fully manual yet, or have only recently come off auto into using perhaps aperture priority and some of the other settings. So exposure compensation is a little feature on your camera. It's usually a little button. I'm just going to fire my camera up and show you the symbol on your camera, the one that you'll be looking for. It's a plus and minus symbol. You can see where my finger is pointing now, with the plus in the dark area and the minus in the bright area. Now this camera is a mirrorless camera, so it's perhaps slightly different from some of the SLRs, but I do have an old Canon camera on the table here, and if you can see up there by my thumb, there's a button that says AV, and then it's got that same symbol. Okay, so you do have it on all of your DSLRs, and it'll either be there on the back of the camera somewhere, sometimes it's on the top near your mode dial. Okay, so we'll come back to the Canon camera in a moment. I'm in aperture priority mode for taking this picture here. You can just see that on the button there. And this is the scene that I'm going to be photographing. I've dialed in f4 for my aperture. The shutter speed is therefore automatic, and my ISO is at about 400. Okay, just wait while that screen comes back on again. Battery's timed out. There we go. So you can see all of those settings there, and you can see by the exposure compensation symbol there that says 0, 0. So at the moment I've not applied any exposure compensation at all. This is how the camera thinks that this picture should look with those settings dialed in. So I'm just going to go ahead and shoot that, and it looks okay, but to my eye and to my taste it's a little bit darker than I wanted. When you look at the scene here, it actually looks a little bit crisper and brighter when I look at it with my phone. So the only thing I have to do to make this picture look a little bit brighter is dial up this exposure compensation setting here. So you need to locate the button on your camera and press it, and as you're pressing it you need to scroll the wheel that you usually scroll to change aperture and other settings. Okay, and you can make it go plus in small increments, and you can make it go minus in small increments. Now on my camera model and on some others, it may well be that it's a dial on top of the camera like this one. So in this instance I'm going to turn this to +1, okay, and then I'm going to come back around to here. You can see that it now says +1 in orange next to the plus and minus symbol of exposure compensation, and I'm going to take that shot. Okay, and then if we have a quick review of the previous shot, it's darker, this shot is considerably lighter. Okay, so it's as simple as that with using exposure compensation. You're just in increments making the picture brighter or darker. So let's go the other way this time and go towards -1 instead, and then come around and shoot our picture. You can see it says -1 there next to the symbol, and taking that shot we've now got a much darker picture. So it's as easy as that, but I'll just show you on my Canon. So just kick it into life. I'm going to try and do this one-handed now. That line there under the 40 and the 999 is our exposure compensation line, and if I try with one hand and press the exposure compensation button and dial up that, you can see that that's moving. That's +1 exposure compensation, and if I go down, that's -1 exposure compensation. Okay, so it's as easy as that on your SLRs as well. The most important thing to do is to remember to switch it back to 0 when you finish using it, because otherwise the rest of your pictures will all be darker or lighter depending on how you last set it. So I hope that's been useful. Give it a go, because it really is a really neat little setting on your camera that gives you almost manual exposure type control. Thanks for listening.